Yes. Thank you, Patricia. All right. Good evening. How are you? How are you feeling today? You feeling peaceful?
Right now, yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good. So we're done. No, we're not. Let's see. What are we going to see today here? How to achieve peace. Well, first of all, I want to talk about the basis for peace, so we know what is it that we would like to achieve. Then I'm going to dive into our own choice in building peace. We have a choice for everything. We're constantly choosing, and we talk about free will, right? So in respect to peace, we have a choice too. I want to bring some life examples of peace. It's not going to be Gandhi, and I want to bring maybe some more hidden examples. But there are many of like everyday people who are examples of peace. I'll try to talk about some. And finally, I will talk about becoming a person of peace. See if this peaceful feeling that we have right now, maybe we can bring it home with us. That'd be amazing, right? Okay, let's see. Well, let's start. About peace. What are the bases for peace? And, I like to ask questions. And you can also ask me questions, interrupt, interject, express whatever you want. So my first question is world peace possible? What do you think? Yes, no? Why? It is possible? Why do you think it's possible? Mm-hmm. Okay. So with everybody in tune with the idea of peace. Okay. Anybody else? World peace possible?
In another dimension, another phase of the world, not this one.
Not in this dimension.
Not in this phase, in this world of probes and expiation.
So in this world of trials and atonements that we are, you don't think it's possible?
A lot
Mm-hmm.
to have a world of it.
Okay.
I think you'll not be here to see it.
You will not see
like
it.
This.
Okay.
It's different.
So Diana will not see it. Okay. Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
So, my feeling is just based upon history. Like, if you look back, I mean, as long as I've studied history and the trials and tribulations of history, and where does that world peace really reside? I don't know, and maybe I'm uneducated, where I haven't seen a world peace scenario where all over the world peace really exists. And that's my personal feeling. I would only base my answer based upon history.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's difficult for me to say, yes, it's absolutely possible.
So what you mean, if I understand correctly, is that throughout history, we always see our examples of, let's call it violence or not peace.
Going back to BC.
Whenever.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So based on experience and observation of what we've seen up to here, you would say no, not possible. Okay.
I think individually you
Mm-hmm.
can achieve peace.
Individually, you can achieve peace. Okay.
Regardless of the turbulence of the world,
Mm-hmm.
peace, right? Individually, you
Mm-hmm.
can find your own peace.
Okay, you can find peace individually. Okay. Let me ask you a follow-up question. Do you think, are we all connected?
Yes.
You believe that?
Yes, I do.
Then you still believe it's possible to achieve individual peace without world peace?
Yes.
Okay. That's interesting. I don't know how that connection works, but you'll have to, because if we're all connected, it'd be very, very difficult.
Well, I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Of what happened this week. I was in shock
Mm-hmm.
with these people that got killed in Colorado Springs. I mean, I was devastated.
Yeah.
But interiorly, I have been working every single day to be in peace
Mm-hmm.
I'm, seeing this what happened in front of me, I'm trying to keep in my peace.
Okay, but you, in total sense, but you use the word devastated. You were devastated by that. So, you don't feel very peaceful when you're devastated by something. And that's exactly it. We're all connected. It's almost impossible to be peace. So experiencing moments of peace, it's possible. Yes, I can agree with that. Yeah. Okay. If I pick up the things that you're bringing here to me, most of them, we could maybe say that peace is not human nature. So, we've seen by experience that ever since we have accounts of history, there's been violence of one form or another. So it seems not to be human nature, right? Now, we could think that since it's not human nature, it's not possible. And we're not going to see it in this lifetime or whatever you want to call it, incarnation. But we've seen many things that are not human nature and that we have achieved. We fly every day, and that's not human nature. And we can achieve things like going to Mars probably soon, and space exploration, and artificial intelligence, and many advances, technological advances and things. And those seem to be impossible at some point. Curing diseases, it seemed to be impossible at some point, and then it becomes possible. So we're able to do things that are not human nature. We've proven that. So, going back to observation, that's something we've proven. Why couldn't we? I resist to think that we can't. So, I'm with you there, that we can see that, we can do that, as we can do many other things. In terms, it's not something I wanted to go into today, but it's a very interesting topic regarding what you mentioned about history. That's something that went through my mind some time ago. Observing history, there's not at any point in time we have seen peace, really. We have not. We have not experienced that. But what I've noticed, first myself, and then I've read some studies about it, is that if you take history in the long run, what we see is a decrease in the level of violence of society throughout history. And we see that consistently happening. There's a scholar, I think his name is Steven Pinker. He's gone through these kind of studies in depth, and if you're interested in that, you can take a look at the data, because what he's done is he's taken data to prove these hypotheses. And particularly, even though it seems that the world is very convulsed now and very violent now, and it is in many senses, and it's getting, that violence in many senses is getting closer to home, which is something we were not used to experiencing, and that's scary. That's very scary. But if we go to data, in many senses, the world is way less violent, and in the past decades, it's more so than ever. So what would be the basis for peace? And peace understood in the sense of sustainable peace, not just moments of peace that we can experience, but that idea of world peace that I believe it's achievable somehow. We have to look for it. First one, it's equality. There's no peace. We can't find peace if there's no equality. If some people have better opportunities than others, if some people have privileges over other people, if we find any of that, there's no way we can have peace. There's always going to be that tension, that conflict, and that happens at all levels. That can be a family level, that can be a workplace level, that can be a country level, culture level, whatever you want to call it. So equality, equal rights. The second requisite for peace is justice. There can't be peace without justice, and there can't be peace where we live by systems in which some people are abide by a set of rules and other people have to go by a different set of rules, or let's say the rules that we all have, the laws and the justice system that we all have work differently depending on where you're born, how much money you have, who's your family, which university you went to, which kind of job you can have, which country you're happening to be living at that point. We may think that we have a system that is pretty good, that is very just, that, hey, there's some things called rights and obligations, and you have to go by them to have a society that functions, and that includes ideas and notions like borders, and this is just to give one simple example. But as long as we have those notions that make societies work the way they do, sure, and that we may want to defend them, sure. As long as we have those notions that are divisive and that create different opportunities for different people in different places and that don't count everybody as one and the same, there won't be peace. There's just no way. So at some point we are going to have to address those issues. I don't know if it's going to be in this lifetime. I don't know. But at some point there will be no borders and there will be no distinctions, and everybody will have equal rights, true equal rights and equal opportunities, because just having a constitution that says everybody is the same and you have to respect and we see that's not enough, and people are getting killed because of the way they are or the way they feel or how they want to express themselves. And when you have that, there's no justice, really. Where's the justice in all of that? Or where's justice in me, a human being privileged over someone else just because I am within a border and I have a paper that says that I can stay within that border? It doesn't make, to me, it doesn't make any sense. And I think there'll be no peace without that. And finally, the third basis for a sustainable peace is access to basic resources for everyone. Unless we have that access, everyone has that access, again, there will be no peace. There will be conflict and there will be issues. So I'm talking, of course, about shelter and food, basic things which not everybody in the world has. And we, again, my belief, as I think the belief of most of the people here, is that we're all connected. And being all connected, if there's someone who can't eat today or have shelter today, even if I think I feel good, try me. I'm not going to feel good. It's not going to happen. I can work on it and I can do things, and we'll see some things that we can do, but it's not going to happen. We're not going to achieve peace like that. So about my role, let's consider this idea. We have visions, and we have different visions about how society has to function, and what are those rights, and what are those laws, and what are the obligations of a community, and who can be and who can't, and all of that. We have different visions. And even each one of us may have different visions about the same thing. So I may be conflicted myself about the issue of borders, or about the issue of a right to healthcare, or a right to education, And when I mean right, is it's equal right for everybody, equal access. Everybody can have it. Otherwise, I may have different visions, even myself. But there's only one path, only one. So with all my ideas, all of my visions, I will end up doing something, just one thing. My action will be only one. There's no other way. I can't do 3 different things. At any given moment, I'm just doing one thing. So I have this vision or visions, but really that's not very important, because what matters, it's really what I do and not what I think. And there's a difference between those. And we tend to think that our ideas define who we are and define the kind of world that we want to see. And they are very important, and don't get me wrong. And they are very important in one sense. My ideas and the things that I claim to defend, you can call political ideas. Let's focus on that. My political ideas, whatever they are, it doesn't really matter, because no matter what your political ideas are and my political ideas are, we all agree that we want peace, right? So we're all on the same lane, idea, think. That's a common that's a common topic and a common thing, common point for all of us. We can all agree that we all want peace, but then we have different ideas on how to get there, on how it would look and how a society should look, and what kind of rights we would have, and if that's equality or not, or justice or not. That looks different for each one of us. Now, my ideas and your ideas are important in the sense that each one of us defending them helps to build the reality that we live in. And of course, the reality that we live in is not very equal. There's not much equality in it, or still lacks equality, and still lacks justice, and still lacks access to basic resources for everybody. I think we can all agree on that. Now, what we have to think individually is, my ideas and my vision are going to have an impact on reality. So I should be careful on what I think and what I defend at any given time, because it has an impact. And I'm not saying, because the world, not just the US, the world is very, very polarized right now between what seems to be one side and another side. I'm not saying this side is right and this side is wrong. I don't think any of the sides is getting closer to where we need to be. But both sides having the same goal, which is achieving a peaceful world, should think about, what am I defending? What am I voting for? What am I spreading? What kind of ideas? What kind of messages? What am I doing in that sense? So that has an impact. Now, regarding action and ideas, we are here today, this is a spiritual community. So we're here for a reason. And the reason is we want to evolve, we want to progress, we want to get better, we want to go deeper in our spiritual experience, right? I think that's a common goal for all of us. And that's why we're here. That's our idea, that's our vision. Now, what's our life? What's our action? What is my action? Because if those two are very different, if what I envision and if my idea of evolution and my idea of enlightenment, or whatever you want to call it, it's very different from my, let's call it private life. We all have a private life. If those two are very different, then getting nowhere. And we tend to fight to raise our private life to get to that ideal that we have. Now this got me thinking a little bit, and I don't know if this is an answer or not, but maybe we should try to be more realistic with our ideas and try to get those two closer together. Because if there's this disconnection, if we don't try to be aware of where we really, then we're not going to be able to lift both of them. And that's going to have an impact on me being a peace builder. That disconnection is going to have an impact. Now, I said I wanted to bring some examples of people who have experimented bringing moments of peace to the world. And they, how many of you know Wangari Maathai? One? Okay, so good. They are not very well known, and they are mostly women, the example that I brought, because it's more difficult for women to take the stand that they have taken. So Wangari Maathai, she worked she's from Kenya, and was from Kenya, and she, I said they're a troublemaker who fought for trees. Now you can say trees. Okay, where's the equality, and where's the justice, and where is the resources? Working for trees, what she did, she created an initiative, a movement that was called the Green Belt Movement. In Kenya, she brought resources mainly for women to be able to plant seeds and trees and create a green belt. And that movement expanded all throughout Africa. Now, that movement, what was trying to do was create more social justice and create resources for the communities, and bring with the trees, what you bring it's water and more resources and more food and more opportunities to these communities. She suffered prosecution because of this work, and she suffered prosecution both from the government and the regime and dictatorship. And I have some quotes here. They called it cruel and mad woman. She was called by the dictators. She stood up courageously and went to jail and suffered. Even she went through a divorce as well. And this is just to give you an example of the things she had to go through. Her husband, on the filings of the divorce, he said she was too strong-minded for a woman, and that he was unable to control her. Yeah, and while she was going through this, she was launching this movement. That what ended up happening in Kenya is that in the period of 10 years, not only she managed to create this huge awareness and movement about trees and about nature and about resources and about fighting desertification and deforestation and water and hunger, she helped to bring in democracy and a change of regime. So if you haven't heard about it, I recommend that you look through her life a little bit. Now, Aung San Suu Kyi, who knows who she is? Because she's alive. You know who she is? No? Nobody? Okay. She's from Myanmar, and she she spent in between 1989 and 2010, she was imprisoned in Myanmar for trying to bring democracy into the country. It's probably one of the, with North Korea, it's one of the closest countries in the world where we know really not much about what happens in there. So she won the Nobel Peace Prize. Wangari Maathai also got the Nobel Peace Prize. And I bring this case because it's really an example, what she did. But then, years later, she managed to get free elections in Myanmar, and she made it to the government, and some things are still happening there. Particularly, you probably heard about a minority, which is the Rohingyas, and how they are being persecuted and massacred. And she, let's say, she took the side of the army and not defended these people, this community who are being persecuted, Muslims in Myanmar, a minority. And so what I mean by this is a very controversial case. She had for decades, she was being awarded many prizes for her work and her life and what she did, and then many of those were taken away in the past few years. Now, I don't bring these, I can't judge. I don't know. I mean, it's a closed country. Nobody really knows what's happening there. Nobody knows. But what I mean is, still, we're in this world where you have to take a stand and do your part. But we're all humans. We're still there. We're still struggling. Even those cases that we admire and that we see, they may err. None of us, not even these examples that I'm bringing, are free from error. I like this story. Both of them, Betty Williams and Mariette Maguire from Northern Ireland, they were also awarded Nobel Peace Prize. Have you heard of them? No? Two women. I don't know the year exactly. I think it was in the 70s, for sure, in Northern Ireland. IRA, terrorism, war, for them, it was war. It was called terrorism if you were in the UK, in London. It was called war if you were a Catholic from Northern Ireland, and terrorism if you were a Protestant. And just that went on for decades. Now, what happened is that during an action by IRA terrorists or activists, whatever you want to call them, 3 children died. So there was an accident during that action, and the car ran over the three kids and their mother. Now, this mother was Mariette's sister. So the 3 kids were her niece and nephews. Yeah. And she went through this, and the other person, Betty Williams, she was a witness, just a regular woman. She was a witness to all of this. They got together right after the incident and the death of the 3 kids. And what they did is they started a peace movement. One of them Catholic, one of them Protestant, they got together and said, this has to stop. And that's the only thing we are going for. Stop. Of course, we know that it took many years for it to stop, but this became, it started as the women women peace movement, and it became the peace people movement. And it's one of the things that contributed to the end of the conflict, at least the violent conflict in Northern Ireland. Betty Williams said, and this is a quote that I like, "I am Betty Williams, the ordinary housewife, but I'm also Betty Williams, Nobel Peace Prize." So all she did was come out there and say, no, this is not the world I want to live in. Now us, go back to us, back to ourselves. Be a person of peace. That's what I want. So I want to be a person of peace. So that's what I'm bringing here today. How do we do that? How do I do that? There are some things that we talked about human nature, and it seems not to be in human nature, by observation, by history, to be a person of peace. We've seen persons of peace, and we all know examples, and I'm sure we all know someone that we say, wow, I feel peace when I'm close to this person. I feel the energy. And if you study them, if you look at them, if you do if you dissect those people, you will see that generally they are not people who are particularly activist or fighters for peace. You may see that, but they don't need to do that. They bring their peace with them, right? How do we do that? How do they do that? How do they get there? I want to bring here a study that was done by a scientist, I think a neuroscientist, on a group of nuns. And those nuns were they were Carmel nuns. Now, Carmel nuns, they come from a congregation, I think that's the term, I'm not sure, but that was founded by Therese of Avila in Spain in the 16th century or something, I don't know, a long time ago. But the thing is, her main practice, the thing that she passed on to her congregation, was this kind of meditative prayer. We talk about prayer a lot, and in fact, in our prayers, we do them here, the word peace comes very often, right? We ask for peace. Many times we end the prayer, peace in the world. May I feel peace. That prayer, or our Lord, or whatever we do, it's one kind of prayer. We're trying to connect. We're trying to connect to our higher self, to the divinity, and we try to talk with God, the universe, energy, call it what you want. Now, this meditative prayer, it's more contemplation. Let's put it that way. That's a bit more like it is. So in this study, they realized that the brain of these nuns was peaceful. It was quiet. We live in a world where I'm sure all of us, if I say this word, you do it. Multitask. I do it. Everybody does it. That's the opposite of contemplating. And we're not equipped emotionally or psychologically to do multitasking all the time. But that's what we keep on doing. And it's the opposite of these people that we know that bring peace with them. Just an example of how we have to review what we do. And in the light of how are those people, that are peaceful, right? A follower and someone who studied Saint Therese of Avila was Saint Therese of Calcutta. She studied the life of Therese of Avila. And once Saint Therese of Calcutta, she was asked, when you pray, what do you tell God? What do you ask God? And she said, I don't ask, I listen. And then the person who was talking with her asked, and what does he say? What does God say? And she said, God listens. So what we get when we achieve that connection, that kind of connection, that presence, that not multitasking, that being here and now, that, as you said, put your cell phones on off, and I don't know how you said it, I liked it, off the grid, we get presence. And it's the only way we're going to achieve those moments of peace with presence. There's no other way. So we have, and we talk here a lot about how, how to work on that and meditation and things. But at the end of the day, it's presence. Presence, it's key, it's necessary. Now, when we are present, what we do is we observe. We observe without judging. That's basically what we do. And then emotions are going to come, and ideas are going to come. And we need to get to the point where our presence is strong enough not to react to those emotions and ideas and multitasking, but to just observe them. Because we are not those ideas and we're not those emotions, we're the consciousness that is observing those. As long as we don't connect with who we truly are, we're not going to achieve peace. We're not going to be peace. But that's not all, because we're talking about who we really are, and we're not alone, because you could say, oh, Juan, then I'm just going to go on to the top of a mountain when there's nobody and achieve peace. Well, it doesn't work that way. We are here together, and we have to work with each other. And we, as I was saying before, we need to get those ideas as close to reality as possible. And we need that presence to be aware of our diversity, because we are diverse, and that's the reality of who all of us connected are. And unless we get to the point where we love diversity, and that's super hard. I'm talking first person here. For me, it is still very hard. I see pictures of diversity or videos, and I'm still not there. I don't love everyone. Just to give the crudest of examples, I may not love assassins. I can't. But I need to get there to be peace. I need to get to that point to be peace. I want to end with this other example. I'm pretty sure by now that you don't know who Satish Kumar is. Good. So let me introduce you to Satish. He's an amazing human being. I got the honor to meet him. He lives in the UK in a small college. It's called Schumacher College. If you ever get the opportunity to go there, It's life-changing experience. They have short courses and long courses and many things. But this person, he, in the, I think it was in the 60s, if I'm not mistaken, he took a walk for peace. So he was just a monk in India. He was a Jain monk. If you know what Jain are, it's the type of monk that they live only from charity, from what they can get from others, and that they their vote is their commitment is to respect all forms of life, all of them. So they will try not to step on an ant, you know, to that point. They won't do that. But this person, he said, I'm going to take off at a moment that was very difficult for humankind, which was a nuclear threat, a moment of a very difficult moment where we came very close to really use nuclear weapons, and he just walked everywhere. He walked to Russia, and he walked to Washington, and he walked to Paris and London, and tried to meet all governments. And he just walked. He left India walking and living off whatever people would give him, and got into that. And that's just a tiny part of who he is. I could feel peace with him. And I'm gonna leave you with a very short video about his experience, and this is gonna be the end of the talk.
I started a great walk from India to make peace in the world. I went to Moscow, Paris, London, Washington, D.C. on foot, without any money, as a pilgrim, promoting peace and non-violence. When you are walking, the destination is not important. The process of walking itself is your journey. You are touching the earth and remembering the earth forgives. You walk on it, you plow it, you dig it, you do all sorts of things to her. And yet, when you put one seed in the ground, it gives you 1,000 fruit. And you learn humility, you live forgiveness, you learn a sense of service, you learn generosity, you learn patience, all these wonderful qualities which earth is an embodiment. And therefore, while walking, you can focus on that. We accept things and do not demand, do not crave for more. Because there is already there plenty. Beautiful sky, flowing river, great forest, beautiful butterflies, flowers, friends, our own body, air to breathe, water to drink. So we accept life as it is in abundant form and celebrate it. We think of ourselves as if we are Christians or Muslims or Hindus or Buddhists or Russians or Americans or Chinese or blacks or whites or rich or poor, all these divisions. In order to make peace, we have to transform divisions into diversity and celebrate diversity. Then we can make peace with people and peace with the earth.